how this new approach, new generation of local economic development plan will assist our municipalities. To kick off, I would like to ask Samira to start the video that we have designed for this launch. Samira, sound, please.
So I think I need to be unmuted. Is it better now?
No sound.
Sorry, I can hear Samira.
Sorry, so no sound?
No sound.
Okay, let me try again.
Dear participants, while Samira fixes this technical glitch a bit, please make sure that you have selected the correct interpretation channel for you to have it in your native language. Thank you very much.
It could be that because of the interpretation for me, just a second, I need to switch to the other channel. Apologize for this, and let's try again.
The challenges we face today are complex, intertwined, and often unprecedented in scale. The COVID-19 pandemic and other crises have shown that even the most remarkable development gains can be worryingly fragile. To better support towns and cities on their journey to sustainable, transformative change in a complex and changing context, the Mayors for Economic Growth Facility, P4EG, has launched a new generation of local economic development plans called Pathways for Economic Growth, P4EG. The P4EG takes a whole-of-place approach to transform physical spaces into vibrant and thriving places. The P4EG takes a hyper-local approach, uncovering the wealth of local assets, from cultural treasures to financial resources, capable of igniting new pathways of growth. The P4EG takes a portfolio approach, a set of interventions that continuously learn from one another, reducing the risks and paving the way for sustainable investments. The P4EG is fully aligned with the green and just transition, as well as making cities smarter and more inclusive. It will also help cities step in the opportunities of the EU's economic and investment plan for the Eastern Partnership. But that's not all. The P4EG introduces a menu of options for community involvement, stakeholder engagement, and ways to orchestrate an ecosystem for local change. Now your municipality can find answers to many of the most pressing questions in your town's sustainable economic agenda. Learn more about the pathways for economic growth. Take a free course at the Urban Learning Center now.
Thank you very much, Samira. Colleagues, for the welcome for this event, I would like to hand over the floor to Thibaut from EU and Tina from our regional office.
Thank you very much, Javid. I hope you can all hear me very well. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. So my name is Thibaut Charlet, and I am working in the European Commission in the Directorate-General for Neighbourhood and Enlargement Negotiations, DGNIA. And I am the program manager for the Mayors for Economic Growth initiative in DGNIA, together with UNDP colleagues. I'm extremely glad that we are having this event today. First of all, because this is a bit like the outcome of what we have tried to do with Mayors for Economic Growth since we started again in 2021 with UNDP. how to support economic recovery, resilience of the cities in a sustainable way. And since 2021, we have achieved a lot. We have more than 400 cities in the network, and many of them, they are already benefiting from technical assistance or financial support. But for all of the cities in the network, we wanted to provide the possibility to develop a new generation of local economic development plans. So how to really make sure that the future projects in the cities are sustainable and that they can reap benefits for everyone in the community. And I think this is why we have these pathways for economic growth. This is really a tool, an instrument for the cities to assess what are the challenges they are faced with, but also the opportunities, such as to empower women, the youth, vulnerable groups, and how to make sure that they can build a sustainable future. We will know more about the methodology later on today, so I will not deep dive in the details, but as you have seen in the video, it draws inspiration from the European Green Deal and other European flagship policies, which are essential for cities to succeed in the green and the digital transformation. So I would like to encourage all of the members of the Mayors for Economic Growth Network to take advantage of this new methodology, to also take advantage of the online platform that is associated to the methodology, the Urban Learning Platform, because it is an opportunity to get more insights, more information about the best practices in the European Union, what the European cities are doing at the moment, what they are planning, but also across the world. And I would like to conclude by also stressing a very important point for us, this pathways for economic growth, this new methodology is also a possibility for cities to understand how to mobilize, how to attract more public-private financing in support of their projects, because we understand that planning, preparing the projects in a sustainable way is the first pillar. The second pillar is how to attract more financing to make sure that the projects can materialize. And to do so, you need a very good preparation. So you need this new generation of local economic development plan. You need the pathways for economic growth to make sure that you can scale up the projects in cooperation with the European Union, but also other donors and European and international financial institutions or the private sector. So we would like to really increase the linkages between the cities and the financing institutions. And we think that the pathways for economic growth is an essential link to make sure this cooperation can happen. So with that being said, I would like to hand over the floor to Tina Stum, and I wish you a good rest of the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thibaut, and greetings to everyone. So good to see so many of you joined us today for this launch. So on behalf of UNDP, we are very excited and pleased to celebrate today the finalization of the new methodology under the Mayors for Economic Growth, and for, of course, the members in the network, but we also hope that it could be useful beyond the network. Just in short, we had to recall that we had two objectives with the new, what we call now P4EG, Pathways for Economic Growth methodology. The first one was, of course, to build on the lessons from the first phase of the M4EG, where we had many local economic development plans designed. I think we have more than 250 plans designed. And we wanted to improve that based on the feedback, of course, from the municipalities that tested that methodology. And at the same time, we also wanted to include, or let's say expand, the understanding of local economic development to also include elements of green and smart development, as Thibault also pointed out. The second thing that we wanted to do was to make a methodology that could really push the needle a bit
Yani
of,
onu biraz da sıkıp ve
going beyond Elnur. I think you are maybe on the wrong channel, Elnur. All right.
yes, I was unassigned.
Let's see if we can fix that, colleagues, and then
Can you assign me,
also
please?
please let us know if there's any pickup. Well, I think they're working on it. So colleagues, if you see any, everyone on the call, if you have any hiccups with any of the interpretation, you know, you can always use the chat, and then we will address it as soon as possible.
Can we try now with Elnur?
All right. Are you good, Elnur? Okay, thanks. All good. Super. Thank you. All right. So the second was to go beyond business as usual and introduce new tools to improve the how of local economic development planning. So in the methodology, I'm sure many of you will see familiar examples and tools and practices presented, but I also hope that there will also be some new ones for you that can inspire and also guide the work that you do when it comes to local economic planning. For example, ways to how we can engage stakeholders, perhaps more collaboratively, more inclusively, and also how can we strategize more coherently, and how can we build on the local identity and the assets that are existing within the many diverse towns and cities that are part of the network. And hopefully the P4EG can be used as a launch pad to test also new emerging ideas, innovation, and technology. And just to recall, in addition to this, in addition to the methodology itself, the guide, there will also be there is already an online course on the Urban Learning Center, like Thibault mentioned, that will be available in all of the Eastern Partnership languages. And as my colleagues today will speak more to, there will also be in-country events and rollout, depending on the country context. Lastly, I also would like to take this opportunity to underline and to share about a new work stream that we have now on the Mayors for Economic Growth initiative, which is on how the initiative can better support municipalities to increase their own revenue source, funding, and financing opportunities. So that's why we have a special conversation today on the relevance of planning instruments for funding and financing at the local level. So I would like to thank, of course, our EU colleagues for the partnership and the active role and support in shaping the initiative, including now the P4EG. And of course, the amazing work that our Arup colleagues have done and their consortia, in particular now over the last 2 years. And of course, the pilot municipality of Baghdati in Georgia that piloted this methodology and offered us also very valuable lessons. And as always, please do reach out to us. Our door is always open, whether it's at the regional level or at the in-country secretariats. Please do reach out to us with any feedback, any ideas that you have on the methodology. We would love to hear from you, and particularly the practical application of the methodology going forward. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. And over to you, Javid.
Thank you very much, Tino and Thibault, for your kind words. And I hope the colleagues will find the next part of this interesting. It will be, as mentioned by Tina, an open conversation. We will talk with our partners here from Arup and EBRD, and our guest, Mayor of Kutaisi, is also joining us. So without further ado, Paula, please take over and let's hear what we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Javid, and thank you for inviting us here today. It's an honor to work with you all on this incredibly important agenda. Just to very briefly introduce myself, so I'm a director with Arup. It's a global design and consultancy company. We've been working for 77 years to bring sustainable development through architecture, planning, design, and engineering. And we're working in over 140 countries globally. So definitely, like you all, we're seeing the need for a very holistic approach to local economic development, how we integrate sustainability, inclusivity, innovation, and collaboration into future-proofing all of our local economies. And in today's dynamic world, all of the municipalities we know are facing challenges and very high levels of unpredictability. So we know that the policy choices and the actions that we're taking today, they're going to significantly impact the communities for generations to come. And this is very prevalent when it comes to our local economic planning. So whilst we traditionally think of GDP, gross domestic product, as an essential measure of economic activity, we're also increasingly seeing that it falls short to capture some of the broader dimensions of well-being and sustainability that we know our modern communities strive to achieve in their local economic development plans. So as such, that pursuit of inclusivity and sustainability integrated into local economic planning is very evident. And the need for more innovative delivery mechanisms is very much what we've built into these pathways for economic growth. So these pathways go broader in terms of connecting very traditional planning policies to more holistic aspects of development. And that's based on social, environmental, as well as economic factors, and getting that balance right, and also promoting alignment with the EU Green Deal. I think we all know that there are unfortunately no silver bullets. There are no easy answers when it comes to sustainable development, and it is often not a linear journey. So instead, there's many pathways, hence the name that we have today for these pathways. And we need to explore all of those in terms of finding the right mix and the right recipe, as it were, for that local transformation. So these pathways, they rely on locally driven stakeholder engagement, planning delivered with a really deep understanding of the city and how each of the cities and municipalities work, and a very strong and robust evidence and database on which to base decisions for local communities that they serve. And this is particularly important when it comes to investment decisions. So these pathways, they rely on a very robust investment logic and a very sound budget management in terms of how the planning and the strategy development are brought together up front. And for local transformation to really work well, new partnerships are essential. So funding and finance that needs to be explored through partnership opportunities as well. And this is why we want to bring in a finance focus to the launch today of the pathways for economic growth. So I'm delighted today to be joined in conversation by Tali Trigg from EBRD. And apologies for any mispronunciations, but Merv Kutisi is also joining us. I'm delighted to have you both with us here today. So if I might start at the top with the strategies for the local economic planning. We've seen the cities in the Eastern Partnership region face several pressing challenges. So things like insufficient infrastructure, investment, demographic changes, and like all of us around the world, increasing vulnerability and exposure and experience of the impacts of climate change and the extreme weather events. And so to address these challenges, the EBRD launched the Green City programme back in 2016 with the aim of building a better and more sustainable future for cities and their residents. So Tali, if I may come to you first, could you briefly tell us about the Green Cities Action Plan programme and what kind of finance and planning support does that programme offer to cities?
Thanks, Paula. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you,
Okay,
great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paula. Thank you to Arup and UNDP for having me. It's very nice to be here this morning. On behalf of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, I'm Tallinn, and I'm here to talk to you a bit about our Green Cities program. To UNDP colleagues, are you able to share slides? This is a good time to do that. So okay, perfect, thank you. So I guess I like the introduction by Thibaut and Paula, and I think, like all good stories, I'll start at the end, which is to say that there's no shortage of good project ideas. There's no shortage of financing, but often what's missing is something to connect the two. So I certainly applaud the efforts of P4EG and everyone here on the call today to try to bring these two things together, because at the end of the day, it's really less about what, as in what the technology is, what the investment is, and often it's about how, it's about implementation. And that's what I think I'm happy to show a bit on how we've advanced at EBRD. Next slide, please. So the Green City Action Plan and Green Cities program of EBRD was started in 2016. And here I'm trying to show a bit of an example of what can be done when you have a framework to get people into the same room talking about similar topics. Because when we talk about sustainable infrastructure, it's a very cross-cutting topic. You can take electric mobility, for example. You need urban planners, public transit officials, energy officials, utility officials, and so on. But to get them all into the same room can be quite tricky. We all work quite separate in different sectors. And a Green City Action Plan, in short, is something of an environmental diagnosis of the city, working with the city to establish what the key challenges are, and then move forward towards a so-called priority list of actions to assess what the opportunities are. But again, one of the key things here is how to do the investment in these cities. Next slide, please. So these are, we're started in 2016 with 3 cities, and we're now around 60 cities, from Agadir in the west to Ulaanbaatar in the east, happily working with the Arup, for example, in the north in Vilnius. You can see countries here today, so I believe all are representative. We have Moldova, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and you can see the others here. Yes, sorry, I'm losing my eyesight this morning. But what you can see is that there's a range of cities in terms of diversity, of size, and also what the profile looks like. Some of our smaller cities in, for example, Romania are a population of 50,000, but we also work in Istanbul and Cairo on the other extreme end. We work in, for example, with mayors and cities in Gyumri, you can see here, Batumi, and Balt in Moldova. To give some examples here across Ukraine, you can see here. But again, this is to show that, you know, we can't go in with this Green City Action Plan with one size fits all approach. We need to be adaptive, because the challenges of a city of 50,000 is quite different from the city of 20 million. Next slide, please. So at the end of the day, what we're looking for is, of course, impact. We want to make sure we're supporting some real difference. Here are some of the high-level numbers in terms of what's been done in investments and mobilization. The bank itself, as you may know, headquarters is here in London, but we have country offices across all our countries of operation, and we're a development bank, so therefore a lot of times there's support, be it concessional financing, regular loans, rigorous procurement processes, grants, and so on and so forth. Technical assistance as well through, for example, the Green City Action Plans. Next slide. Here's a bit what the approach is. So on the top, you can see what tends to happen. And I think I want to say one key thing here is that for there to be real engagement with the city, we want to make sure there's something that the city's really has some, I don't want to use skin in the game, but basically has participated in a way that's quite substantial. And you can see here, the approach here is to do a trigger investment, and then a Green City Action Plan has 2 phases, a baseline and an action part. And then the idea is that this opens up for more priority investments by others. And so this is really one of the key slides, because what I want to say here is that it's not just that EBRD invests in these follow-on investments. There are others as well, EIB, other commercial banks, other development banks, private investors, etc. And the reason that's quite important is to say that although in your cities on the call here, you very likely have a very good idea of what the investments are, what your priorities are. You probably already know that. But in order to get to the point where something can be financed and be so-called bankable, that's where this Green City Action Plan, which is a one-year process, really gets everyone around the table to make sure that the investments are as close as being ready to be financed or invested into. And this is good because you have yourselves, you have on our side on the bank, let's say both financial and technical due diligence and support, but you also have lots of stakeholder engagement. So we have at least 4 rounds of stakeholder engagement in each city to make sure that there's also bottom-up validation. And then we also use a lot of data with consultants such as Arup to make sure that the data checks. At the bottom there, you can see Sarajevo as a great example, where there was a water project signed in 2017. A few years later, some delays because of COVID here, the GCAP, the Green City Action Plan, was adopted. And then we've had more than 6 follow-on investments since. Next slide, please. Here's a bit, I'm not going to go into any excruciating detail here, but just to say that when it comes to financial instruments, EBRD
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Tali, but if you can speak a little bit slower, you have a lot of content that's really interesting, just for the interpreters. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. So this slide is meant to show the financial instruments, and here you can see a diversity of instruments. You have different counterparties that we're used to working with. So it doesn't have to be the central government. It doesn't have to be the municipality itself, but it can be. It can also be utility and private company as well. So we also invest in the private sector. There's different financing conditions, which you can see there, which are so-called concessional or preferable, as in our role as a development bank. And then at the bottom there, you can see a slew of different financing products. So you have loans, which are quite classic, although more interesting ones there, both sovereign and sub-sovereign, as in to the national government or to the city directly, where that's possible. There's also equity, where we invest directly in, for example, private companies. And then there's also bonds, and we're very excited to see this take off for the bonds market. Not sure if the slide can't be seen, I see from someone, but I see it, but hopefully. And next slide, please. And then I believe close to the end of my slides and what I wanted to show, but just to say that for Green Cities program and in general, and I think this is what P4EG and UNDP in general are working on, is to take a comprehensive approach. So what you see here is that sure, we are focusing on financing and mitigation and adaptation, but we need to make sure there's, for example, resilience. Working in Gaziantep with a recent earthquake, this takes on a whole new meaning. We're looking at smart and digital, nature-based solutions, strong focus on energy as far as is possible in cities, gender and inclusion, private sector, and then working on a policy toolkit to help and inspire other cities to work on this. And I think that's a key point also, that we make sure that our cities connect with each other, because as I said, the cities know very well what the priorities are, but often what they want to know from each other is how to do it, how to implement. So we try to facilitate that. Next slide. So apologies for speaking a bit fast, but hopefully that gives you an overview, and I'm happy to discuss more during the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Tali. That's really interesting. I think you had a very valid point that the projects and the opportunities are plenty. And I know everyone on this call will be very aware of what the opportunities are in their own city and municipality. Connecting that through to be financeable and bankable, I think is very much what we're looking to support and to help with the pathways that we have today. So if we move to look at one particular city, and we're very lucky to be joined by the Mayor of Kutaisi this morning, and I know the city has a new vision and an economic mission to be an eco-smart city. And I know that this strategy and this approach in the city was developed with the help of the UNDP mission to look at that economic development through a slightly updated lens. I wonder if you can just talk us through what some of the characteristics of that eco-smart portfolio are, and how you are how as a city you're looking to increase the readiness of accessibility to that finance. So how are you making that link that Tali has just talked to about the cities and the project opportunities and transforming your vision into something that is financeable and bankable?
I would like to greet you. I hope you hear me. For me, it's privilege to be here with you on important forum, and I'm really happy that I can share the experience accumulated in my city, in our city, within the frameworks of Mayors for Economic Growth program. I will be happy if my slides are on, because I want our dear participants to look at it. So I will prepare the slides. Kutaisi, Eco Smart City. I want there's a title, and I want to tell you about our city. Our city has a history of more than 3,500 years. Of course, there were huge historical changes that city experienced, and today Kutaisi is still main city of West Georgia, main city of Imereti region, and despite of huge challenges, employment, migration, the city still thinks of a better future, better development, and today the city works on master plan for development, master plan for city development, which will become action plan for our city. On concept level, the document is already adopted. It rests on 4 pillars. Kutaisi as administrative center of West Georgia, Kutaisi as gate to Europe, Kutaisi as synergy, city of synergy, and fourth is Kutaisi green city, green economy city. And due to this last important component, we decided to get benefit from Mayors for Economic Growth program and prepare Smart Eco City program, which luckily was shared, was adopted, was funded. I will tell you briefly about the process. In the beginning, it was mentioned that today we already have really good results. But yes, it's true, because 2 years ago when we were starting our work on this project, no one had any idea what to do, what was that, and this was a challenge, real challenge for our city. And I believe my team was really successful in its achievement. And the experience obtained by us and collected inside of our city led us to our joint decision to make Kutaisi Eco City. And I also would like to highlight Cora Foundation support, also Demos Helsinki, and of course UNDP team. These people cooperate with us on daily basis to prepare final project and implement it successful. And yes, definitely today we have real results, and now new phase starts. As Tina mentioned, this is the path which will give us opportunity to empower, strengthen our city from economic perspective. As for our project, I want to say that there are 3 key directions: information communication network, customer urban transformation and management. And before I would like to highlight that we successfully cooperate with Academy, Kutaisi International University, and Kutaisi Tsereteli University are also actively participating in this process. And, you know, this is very important part of our project. Of course, every project needs information campaign, and of course, besides key areas, we have eco application as well, which enables us, with the assistance of students of international university, to prepare so some kind of eco app which gives answers to interested people about climate changes, about ecology, or of course, all this will help our citizens to be better informed and you know, will promote positive attitudes towards green city status. Out of we have implemented several projects from these three areas, and later I will provide more details about this. But before that, I would like to tell you that in the beginning, we planned smart waste management, which meant installation. Sorry, I lost him. Sorry, I lost him. And now, which meant collection of waste, provision of this service. Also, we were thinking about green mobility. We also installed chargers for electric cars, and this supported Kutaisi self-government to our self-government decided to ensure free parking and charging for electric cars. The city will pay for this, and also we made important decision which aims at installation of solar panels in Kutaisi Transport Company. The tender is already finalized, and by autumn, mentioned enterprise will be able to work to use solar energy and become eco-friendly. And also very important activity you see on the screen. This was training courses, education courses for youngsters about ecology. Students attended trainings, and then they worked and developed some prototypes of the devices which could have smart impact on ecology. And I mean, they developed some mini devices which were then tested, and we believe that this will bring positive results to our city. I mean, these devices. And within some days, we have already announced Ideathon within the frameworks of the project. And the aim of this Ideathon is to get some ideas from youngsters, which will enable us to think how, if it is accepted, how to implement these ideas in practice. Of course, within the frameworks of the practice, we plan exchange visits to share EU experience. And we have a special program which will enable our employees to be retrained, to provide better services to our citizens. And all this, of course, will help us to provide better services. So as for the project itself, it was really important for us to it was very important to achieve some results basing ourselves on absolutely new approaches, you know, and we're so happy to share our experience with other cities participating in our network, and we do expect that P4EG, I mean Pathways for Economic Growth, will enable us to implement and use more new initiatives, to share with one another these new initiatives, and do more with these improved capacities, and to make more smart decisions to develop our cities in smart way. You know, we are focused on smart and eco-friendly development, and we want to ensure this green development for our green growth for our country. If you have questions, of course, I'm ready to answer them. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And it's really great to see you bringing in the next generation of leaders there as well, and the partnerships that have been necessary to bring about that innovation, and to really see some of those initiatives and opportunities being put into practice. I'm very conscious, Javid, I know that we're on time. So I wonder if we have time for one very quick question before we need to wrap up. I'm just, we've heard a lot about the timing here, and the need for the city municipalities to bring in a lot of other stakeholders and partners. And Talia, if I might quickly just come back and ask you, as well as asking our mayor, what would you say is the top tip or some advice that you can give to the other cities about the timing for these pathways, and the timing to make sure that those project opportunities can be bankable and can be investable? I know sometimes we see them coming too late to the financial institutions. So any advice you could share very briefly, please?
Sure. Thank you, Paula. That's a good question. It's a tricky question. There's some ways to answer it. If you look at certain, let's say, grant proposal cycles that exist for example, climate finance, it's good to have an idea of those cycles when those proposals are due. And that could be one thing that's especially attractive for small to medium cities and municipalities. Which is to understand that sometimes you can be part of a national program for climate finance. But as I said before, the project ideas are at a local level, the financing is very far away. And to connect the two, I think one top tip I would have is to engage both with partners such as ourselves, who have a very good, let's say, understanding of timing and what's happening at a high level for financing, but also engage with each other to share ideas and what's working, because a lot of times cities are laboratories for sustainable investments. So nobody knows better than the ones who've done it. We recently had one speaker from one of our green cities go to another city, and I can say that it was one of the most impactful interventions we've ever had, because again, it's all about implementation. So in short, you know, stay in touch with us, but also talk to each other, because I think implementation is the key. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Kakalishvili, if I've got that right, just to ask you the question as well, was there any point in the process, the 2-year process that you've described, where you felt that the timing of the interventions made a difference that you could share with us?
Yes, of course, it's important. Finances are never enough for cities, especially when we speak about development. Therefore, different sources should be found for long-term project funding. Of course, there are the budget development donors providing some funding within particular grants. Good example is Mayors for Economic Growth. Also, there are some financial institutions. Cooperation with is very important as well. And today, we cooperate quite successfully with the development donors. We implement several projects, but of course, we need to highlight that we do not have really good experience of cooperation with financial institutes. I could say that for municipalities, this for municipalities have to pay higher for these service interests than financial institutes, and we can take loan in agreement with Ministry of Finance, but it costs us higher to provide to serve this loan. And when we respectively, when we speak about long-term project requiring bigger investments, I mean equipment for cleaning, municipal transport, such as EBRD program, I mean possibilities, opportunities in EBRD, within EBRD projects, then we need significant funds, which might not be provided by central budget. And in this case, we need to engage financial institutes. And for us, for self-governing cities, we have some experience, this scheme is less adjusted and tailored to municipalities. I mean, these loans to be taken from financial institutes, and there are some risks. Of course, I understand from financial institutes, they see less sustainability in municipalities, and they prefer to cooperate with the central bodies, but from our side, such development of such skills, I mean, in terms of small loans more adapted to cities, I mean, such small loans would help us in improving experience of cooperation with the financial institutions. We could develop skills for better cooperation with financial institutions and for submission of better financial reports. And of course, it's public expertise and financial assessment is very important for us. Of course, city has economic development plan. However, I would like to say that in such situations, engagement of financial institutions is absolutely crucial, and it will be really nice if such meetings are arranged with municipalities, cities, and financial institutes, of course, with participation of central government as well. This will be real situation. Good.
All of the valuable insights. And I think the idea of cities being the laboratories for sustainable investment, innovation, and partnership is a fantastic thing to take away from this today. So thank you both very much for sharing all of the information today. Javid, apologies that we have run over, but I'll hand back to you now so that we can hear a little bit more about the pathways in more detail and how they're going to help us shape and steer cities towards more sustainable economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula, for kind facilitation of this and interesting discussion that we had. And I'd like to thank Tali and the mayor of Kutaisi for their inputs. One thing stuck in mind, and I think what we've done great over the last few years, is we've really built a network that can talk to each other, that can communicate, and they can learn from each other. And this is one of the legacies that M4EG will certainly have on the future. Next speaker will be Luke Thompson from Arup, who will talk to us about what are we talking about today? What are the pathways for economic growth? So Luke, please, the floor is yours. Thanks,
you. Javid. Thanks, Javid. Thanks, Javid. If we just go to the first slide, please. Okay, so thank you. So I'll just give a quick overview of what P4EG is about, and then we'll jump into some of the technical details and how P4EG should be put together. So the P4EG is an economic planning approach. It's designed to help cities in the Eastern Partnership to pivot towards more sustainable forms of economic growth. And it's based around addressing these three complex areas that are on the screen now. One area is transitioning cities to greener forms of economic growth, dealing with very complex challenges around aging workforce, climate change and nature loss and population displacement, and having a more adaptive approach to economic planning. So it's place-based planning, understanding the interactions between elements of a place, communities, the economic development, social aspects, how all of these factors interact, and having more public and private sector dialogue in project ideas and building up an economic vision for communities, and having a very multi-level governance approach as well. So next slide, please. The key features of P4EG. P4EG provides a lot of tools and methods for cities to use to understand how their cities work, how the external changes around climate, nature loss, global economic growth in the region are affecting their place in their cities. So there are a number of tools and methods within the P4EG guidance that allows cities to unpack these issues. Embeds a very strong goal-setting process in economic planning to address changes and the challenges that are facing cities, and encourages sort of projects that are sort of innovative in the economic planning processes, and provide a very strong link back to the problems that they would address. And then sort of it also underneath the P4EG provides sort of modules within the Urban Learning Center and materials for cities to use and to think about drawing on different parts of the network with P4EG to understand and build knowledge around best practice and sort of think about what other cities are doing and reflecting on the learning materials to be inspired about what might drive change in their community. And next slide, please. So the building blocks of P4EG is very modular and set out for cities to undertake a journey over 6 to 8 months in pulling together their pathways for economic growth plan based around these core factors. So one thing is to really understand how city works as an urban system. So an urban system is how the economy is changing, how its economy links to social and economic interactions in the environment, and sort of how all the different pieces of the city fit together. Thinking about green economy, and that's greening the economy and the green systems that are needed to move cities in a more green direction, and thinking about the skills needed in the economy to be truly green, the supply chains and the investment needed to really drive a green economy. So these are key sort of fundamental pillars. And then underneath this is sort of a strong sort of focus on learning, drawing on the Urban Learning Center, engaging different members of the community in the planning process, stakeholder engagement, being very sort of innovative and experimental, thinking about the projects and sort of what's worked elsewhere, and sort of coming up with projects that are truly innovative and green. Sustainability and resilience as core factors in the planning process as well. Okay, next slide, please. So there are a number of critical success factors that are present in the P4EG. So one is a very strong commitment from leadership to engage, be willing to engage with donors and sort of champion sort of change in their communities. So coming up with a P4EG plan that has a strong commitment from the local municipality itself, but sort of sponsors in national government and the community, and be willing to engage with the community and sort of stand up and champion projects once the plan is delivered, plan and see it through its implementation. Having a vision that's very inspiring and sort of logical and aligned to national goals and priorities and reflects the need for global action on climate change. Awareness of local context, having a very credible budget for plan delivery and understanding where the revenue streams and funding are coming from to not just to deliver the plan, but to deliver on the projects that are identified within the plan. Willingness to engage donors and stakeholders and investors and central government, have that engagement early in the process. As we've heard in the panel discussion, that need for early engagement is very critical. Having a very robust sector mapping to reveal strengths and weaknesses and incorporate the analysis of skills in education and businesses. And there are a number of tools in P4EG and links and resources within the Urban Learning Centre for cities to undertake this sector mapping and to reveal those strengths and weaknesses. Applying a principle of building on what you have, and that's sort of building on existing local strengths and resources and identities, having that strong local identities that have come through in terms of the vision that is set out in the P4EG, and a willingness of a leadership team to embrace innovation and really think outside of the box about what the community looks like in the future in the context of all the change that's happening in their community and the world around them. Next slide, please. So there is a lot of detail in this slide, but there are these 6 analytical steps for cities to undertake, through process steps rather. So there is a pre-launch phase, and that is undertaking initial training within modules that are contained within the Urban Learning Centre, undertaking the pre-module to thoroughly prepare cities to map out the processes that will be needed to develop their pathway. And there are some online trainings on the ULC and program management tools for cities to use in this pre-launch phase. The second is to then undertake a review of existing plans and targets, and that's really to understand the broader context that the cities are within, and doing a literature review of how all of these different existing plans and targets sit together. The third step is to undertake we call a local situation assessment, and that's to understand the challenges and gaps in the current practices and the interlinkages between different aspects of the local economy. So within this, there's some data analysis and there's tools to undertake that data analysis. There's modules within the Urban Learning Centre to guide cities throughout each one of these 6 steps as well. And there's a ULC module on how to undertake local situation assessment. The fourth step is around strategy making, and that is to create a common set of aims and objectives for the economy, and describe what the future will actually look like if these are delivered, these aims and objectives are delivered. And again, tools here, there's strengths, opportunities, threats analysis, drivers of change, understanding all of the drivers of change, and there's materials on that, and undertaking visioning workshops around what the future will look like under different scenarios, and engaging communities and different stakeholders in those visioning workshops. The fifth step is around creating an action plan and selecting projects or policies that will help drive forward that vision. And there's undertaking a short list of actions that are realistic financially, and realistic in a delivery sense, and well as accepted by the community and different stakeholders. And then really being strong level of advocacy and driving forward those projects and understanding who are the different stakeholders needed to see their implementation and successful implementation. We maybe can jump through to the next slide now. So the overview of the P4EG steps and timelines is a 6 to 8 month process, and what we can see up here on screen here is how that 6 to 8 months is spread out. So just linking the previous slide on those process steps, there is the pre-launch phase and gathering all of the stakeholders, understanding the maps of stakeholders and different people that you would like to interact with. The cities will need to engage with as they develop their plan. There's a review period for within each one of these steps to reflect on the information gathered and sort of be prepared to undertake that next step in the P4EG process. The local situation assessments will run for around 2 months, and that is going through all the data analysis, looking at the different stakeholders, engaging with those stakeholders to really develop that strong picture about the current situation in the city and where it wants to get to. Is moving in the next step. And there's the next step around strategy making, and that's where cities take the information, the local situation assessment, develop a strengths opportunities analysis, develop a vision, and then shortlist actions. And then the next final phase of the P4EG is the identification of the next steps and driving forward those actions through implementation, and then setting up evaluation metrics that is understanding how the plan will be monitored and evaluated over time to make sure that there is this ownership within municipality to make sure that the projects are implemented and be a steward for their implementation over time. Next slide, please. So I said there are these process steps, but there are also within these there are analytical steps, which are set out here in those 5 points. So the key analytical steps are understanding the local economy, focused around the building blocks that are presented in the earlier slide, undertaking a systems map, that is understanding the local actors in the economy and existing initiatives that give rise to the current situation. The third step is around making a strategy, and that is based around developing a vision, a SWOT, and goal setting, and making a case for projects. And again, there are a number of tools within the ULC and within the P4EG guidelines to allow cities to undertake this strategy making. The fourth step is developing a long list of projects, applying a criteria analysis to those, and those criteria that applied is to ensure that projects are green, innovative. There are a number of criteria, but the key thing is here is that by using these criteria, cities will have projects that are robust and attractive to the community, but also different investors and funders of projects as well, whether those be different donors or central government or otherwise. And then the fifth analytical step is around monitoring and evaluation of that plan over time once it's been fully implemented. The next slide, please. So I'll just touch very quickly on the pilot for the P4EG. So in 2022, 2023, we piloted the P4EG in Baghdati in Georgia, alongside UNDP colleagues in Georgia. These are some of the actions that we identified for applying the P4EG pilot in Baghdati. Baghdati has a very strong agricultural sector and a very strong historic links to winemaking and wine production. Some of the actions that were identified really drew on these strengths and capabilities, and these actions are on screen and some of the things that were identified. There are a number of different actions that were identified by Baghdati in its economic plan, but really strong emphasis on encouraging innovation in winemaking and engaging the workforce and upskilling the workforce in the area of new production methodologies in winemaking, expanding access to technologies and fostering innovative approaches in agriculture, facilitating low emission and eco-friendly public transportation systems to think about mobility, better connecting the labor force skills to different sources of employment and education. thinking about energy efficient renovations of municipal buildings to reduce energy consumption and promote sustainability in the municipality's infrastructure, and revitalizing and renovating central areas of the municipality to create more vibrant and attractive spaces for the community and visitors to the community and future residents. Early funding wins to establish a wine laboratory in Baghdati, which is funded by GIZ grant through the Catalyzing Economic Social Life Regions program. So that's the end of my slides. So I'll hand back now to Javed, Samira. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Luke, for a detailed and comprehensive outline of this initiative, of this part of our work. And as we can see, it's not going to be a short journey. It will take some time. It will take effort, but I'm sure that there will be municipalities who will be implementing this and they will benefit from it. Next part of our today's conversation are going to be related to in-country activities related to P4EG in 2024. So would like to start with our colleagues from Armenia office, please.
Thank you, Javed. I'll switch to Armenian now.
Hello, dear colleagues. I'm very glad to see and welcome you today here. And specifically, I am very glad to see not only P4EG network members who are interested and are connected to the launch of this initiative, but also the countries that are not members of the network. So I welcome all of you and all our colleagues. I have some minutes to shortly describe how are we planning to move forward in Armenia relating to the implementation of this methodology. I want to thank once more for this process and describing the process and the practices. And I see that there is an interest to try on this methodology and the toolkit, and we saw that there are sections in the methodology that we can consider and see how we could benefit from this in our activities. And we want to be sure that we are not there is no overlap between our 5-year development plans of the communities, and we'll see what added value this methodology would bring their development plans, and also for how they can be helpful in economic planning in our countries. So, and when we see the development plans, there might probably might be sections that how the communities are working to increase their efficiency, or there are some communities that have activities towards green economy. But there are sections that obviously are not included in the community development plans. Innovation, how they could be incorporated there, or sustainability issues. There are certain things that should be done here. And we think that methodology will be useful for us once we understand this and incorporate them in our plans and processes. And for this to take place, the approach that we adopted in Armenia is that we we will select some communities who have expressed interest in doing so. And we already know that there are some municipalities that want to pilot this methodology, but unfortunately cannot go like and broadly implement this methodology. We need to select specific communities and address several issues connected with the adaptation and tailoring this to our circumstances according to our legislation, to see how this or that method could be used to have the best result and benefit from it. We will have in the nearest future, we will have this, we will do this selection. We haven't done this yet. We addressing our communities, interested communities, to contact me or Monica. And if you see that we will need like 5 to 6 months to work together within this scope of, and after this, we will be able to see how beneficial the toolkit and methodology were for us. And I would like to also mention that we hope that this methodology will help you communities for your 5-year planning. And I believe that currently there will be communities that are going to develop their development plans this year, or are in the middle of developing them. So we will be able to incorporate and have in line with our methodology process. And I would also like to repeat that there is a brief online training course. This is English, of course, but in the nearest future, if we see that there is a need, we can translate in Armenian, but you can use it in English already and familiarize with its materials and gain information. You know about our learning platform already. So I encourage you to learn about this methodology in depth from the training. Thank you very much. At this point, we will be in contact.
Thank you very much, Gürer. We'll move now to Azerbaijan. I will speak in Azerbaijani. Hörmətli həmkarlar, hörmətli
Dear
qonaqlar.
colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to welcome you all here once again. As you know, this economic development plans is an integral part of our training center, and of course they are interconnected and intertwined. And we back in December when we met, we already spoke about it extensively and spoke about the steps going further. I would like to give you an executive summary of what is going to happen. So with those municipalities that have been invited now in the second quarter of 2024, we are looking forward to organize a 5-day boot camp. And I would like to, of course, extend my appreciation to the European Union delegation here in Azerbaijan and the expert team in Baku, and of course to the delegation here locally for supporting us with this, with a 5-day boot camp. As a result of this, again, as I mentioned earlier, this will be, it is a 6 to 8 months process. It is not a very quick thing to go through. Therefore, I believe that in the quarter number 3, third quarter of 2024, we are looking forward to plan and organize M4EG Baku Investment Forum, again to bring together the practitioners and as well as potential investors from the private sector. It will be an opportunity to share these ideas, and I hope that this event, this gathering, will create additional opportunity and momentum for our municipalities because of the change that I expected to happen this year in the structure the municipalities run, and it will also be coinciding with the period of the future elections, and I think it will be a momentum for them to reflect this. I would like to wish everyone success in that regard, and of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to accommodate those questions. You can always reach out to me via phone, via email. Thank you very much for your attention.
The next, I would like to ask our colleagues from Georgia to provide information on their activities. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Javed. I will switch to Georgian. მოგესალმებით მეგობრებო, მივესალმებით ჩვენს გამოსვლელებს, მონაწილეებს.
I would like to greet you. I welcome our colleagues. Since we are short of time, I will very briefly inform you about the processes we planned in Georgia. First of all, I want to extend my deep gratitude to Baghdadi municipality for being so engaged and for implementation and development of first action plan. We are following this municipality and will observe how the process will go or will be ongoing. I mean, approval by the city council of the plan and then its implementation. You know, the main point is that there should be no ambiguity for our municipalities in dealing with these new things. And of course, everything should be in compliance with the context of the country. Our municipalities are working on their action plans and strategies, methodology for which is approved by the government of Georgia, and the methodology was developed with UNDP support, and this methodology, which we piloted in Baghdadi municipality, gives really good approaches for evaluation of local context, which we can use for development of mid-term analytical document, because we quite often have difficulties in developing analytical documents, isn't it? So, and I think this methodology could be interesting for you as well, and will be able to, and will with pleasure share this with you. And at the same time, you will get familiar with Baghdadi experience. All municipalities are already part of the network, mayors for economic growth. This, of course, points to high interest of our self-governments, and I believe that we'll have opportunity using these well-planned development documents to achieve additional financial instruments, and I believe that financial institutions will also actively participate with it. One initiative which we propose our municipalities is Investment Readiness Academy. We'll select 8 municipalities, and I believe for them it will be also very interesting to use these approaches. My colleague Otar Konjari and me are ready to answer all your questions. Please get in touch and we are ready to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiko. Valentin, over to Moldova.
Thank you, Javed. Valentin cannot join, so I will speak instead of him. I will remain speaking in English due to some technical reasons. I have full faith in our translators. What we have in Moldova, we're excited to pilot this methodology of P4EG to new selected localities. As well, we also are planning to assist the first ever village in Moldova to upgrade to becoming a city. So it's very exciting for us to try to combine this new methodology also with some like approaches for the village. We also are trying to promote this methodology to our network and signatories in Moldova, and we saw a very big interest to like municipalities that are interested in trying new approaches of the economic development plan. As well, we are planning to support the local municipalities in testing it, not only the pilot cities, but also we're open to other municipalities, which also were writing me in the chat. Is it available for us? Yes, we are open to everybody to try to help and develop this methodology. As well, we are planning to create a sistership forum also on that theme. So we are very excited on this forum, and these are the news. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mircea. Over to colleagues in Ukraine.
Щиро дякую, колеги. Ну, насамперед хотів би подякувати всім.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues. And first of all, I would like to express my words of gratitude to all speakers today for so bright presentation of the P4EG methodology. And I would like to share with you our plans in Ukraine. Well, first of all, in Ukraine, we have some specific situations, specific context, which actually identifies our path for implementation of the P4EG methodology. And first of all, we are speaking about the impact of the barbaric invasion of the Russian Federation on the territories of Ukraine, and its ongoing invasion. So it also identifies those specific context details. And in particular, I'm speaking about our legislation and amendments of legislation which were made and which are related to the process of strategic planning. And we shall take it into consideration. Secondly, that the gaining of Ukraine of the candidate member for the EU, and it opens new paths and new opportunities in perspective of engagement of different resources for Ukraine. As we know, Ukraine has quite a wide and sustainable architecture of strategic planning. It has been also built on the local level, and it's closely related to the policies of regional development and corresponding processes of strategic development of specific regions, and both on national and regional levels. All these facts should be taken into consideration. In our case, our goal is not to implement some parallel processes of strategic development, but we are more focused on improving of quality of strategic planning on the local level, namely on the level of the territorial communities, and to maximize our usage of those specific details and specific characteristics of the P4EG methodology as the best example of implementation of our opportunities for strategic planning and gaining access to financing and funding. So in Ukraine, first of all, we plan to use the P4EG methodology for improving of the existing strategies and plans and improving this approach. In order to do this, we need, first of all, to have a quality translation of this methodology into Ukrainian language with provided expert comments on how actually this methodology could work in the context of our Ukrainian legislation and those amendments that were made into Ukrainian legislation due to the recovery process. And we see this process as very inclusive, with engagement of experts, both on all three levels, local, regional, and national. And we also plan to cooperate with the Ministry of Development of Territories, Communities, and Infrastructure of Ukraine. Correspondingly, based on translation of this document adapted to our context and based on the amendments in our legislation, the recommendations will be developed for local self-governance authorities regarding how to implement this methodology. Later, these recommendations will be presented to a wide circle of stakeholders, including municipalities, which actually participate in the Mayors for Economic Growth initiative. And then afterwards, we will identify next steps, how it's possible to practically implement this methodology in order to improve different strategic documents on different levels, including the level of territorial communities. Thank you so much. I'm ready to answer any questions, and I'm ready to get any of your proposals, ideas, which would be able to support and help you with piloting of this methodology. Thank you so much. Javed, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Dear colleagues, speakers, guests, I know we're slightly over time on our agenda. So I would like to ask if there are any questions or any suggestions regarding of what you've heard today, of what we've said, we've presented, our partners mentioned. Please, the floor is yours. We'll be able to take one or two questions before we wrap up. I don't see any hands. Colleagues, if you have any questions, feel free to open up your mic and well, I guess, yeah, Anna Benashvili, please. Your mic is muted.
I would like to greet you once more. I just want to ask you, when we work on proposals in this process, I believe we'll have opportunity to get in touch with you, isn't it so? Maybe you could share your emails or telephone numbers to get in touch if we have questions in the process.
Anna, certainly you can.
Sure, we can.
The contacts are given here for our colleagues in Georgia, and you can reach out to them, and I'm sure they will be able to. If no further questions, dear participants, dear guest speakers, thank you very much for taking time out today and joining our session. I hope in a few months to come, by the end of this year, we'll be able to see the results of the hard work carried out by municipal teams, by our partners and our donors. I'd like to thank Arup team for the hard work. It's been an interesting journey. And of course, huge thanks to EU in Brussels, in countries that we work with, for all the support that this initiative has been receiving. Have a good day, stay in touch, and as it was mentioned today, network is the thing that will help us all. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you, goodbye.
Thank you, goodbye.